everyone. This is the next episode of Christians Make Bad Art, and I promised some good guests, and I finally begged my wife enough for her to come on and be a part of the show. So welcome, Kasha.
Thank you.
You seem really excited to be doing this. We just had a dinner with friends, and anytime you get two toddlers and just anytime you get young kids together, it is really hard. But it was so good. But we are tired, which means it's perfect time to set up a camera and a mic and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So the reason is I brought Kasha on is because we have a consistent conversation in our house and in our car and just around the idea of Christian music. And so I can't remember how long ago it was. It was like a month ago, I feel like. We were in the car. You and I were not doing well kind of to begin with.
No.
We were just kind of annoyed with each other, and and you were listening to, would you say that you listen to predominantly secular music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so you were listening to we were listening to something, and did you ask me, can we listen to something happy? Or did I ask you that?
I think you asked me.
Yeah, I think, can we oh yeah, that's right. So I asked her, I said, can we listen to something happier, something a little more uplifting? And she's like, well, what do you recommend? And I said, I don't know, worship music.
And I got really mad.
Okay, yeah, and so I wanted to talk about that and share it. Like, why did that make you angry?
Because at the time in my life, I was at a point where I was in serious doubt of my faith, and I felt like you were pushing me. Like, if she'll just listen to worship music, she'll be saved again.
Saved again. Yeah, but I mean, but it's not even just worship music. You have seemed, so for as long as I've known you, you have an aversion to Christian music in general, whether it's worship or the stuff on the radio. It just, you're really, really picky.
Yes.
Why do you think that? And no more yawning.
I'm sorry. I don't like Christian music.
You heard it here first, folks. My wife, former pastor's wife, does not like Christian music. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because, I just think it's bad music, for one.
What?
And two, I think I was telling you the other day, I can't tell if it's real or not.
What do you mean by real?
It just seems like they take popular Christian phrases and put them together and put music behind it.
Do you have an example?
I do, but I don't think I should say.
Do it, yeah.
It's that Hillsong. I specifically think of a Hillsong.
Oh, the Hillsong Youth. The Hillsong,
yes.
Young and Free.
Yes.
Which one is it?
I don't know.
I mean, pick one, really.
Yeah. They just... Oh, what one is it?
Wake Me Up. The Wake Me Up one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, it is that one, because you're like, they're just trying to, get to the kids.
Yeah.
Or they're...
With the, woke thing. But, if you listen to the verse even,
mm-hmm.
Can I look up the lyrics?
Yeah, look up the lyrics. No, I think you're right. It does seem like a lot of Christian music is just stringing together a bunch of Christian phrases and words. It doesn't even have to be coherent sometimes. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, I don't know. And I think that's what you and I have talked about most is the whole authenticity. And the word authenticity is being used too much right now, but the authenticity of a song, a Christian song, is hard to know.
Okay, so this is the verse. At break of day in hope we rise, we speak your name, we lift our eyes, tune our hearts into your beat, where we walk, there you'll be. With fire in our eyes, our lives alight, your love untamed, it's blazing out. The streets will glow forever bright, your glory's breaking through the night. How does that like even go together? Like, what is like, what are they saying?
It feels like words for the sake of words rather than, I mean, what is the message it's trying to get across?
Yeah, like there are, I don't even know if they're Christian. I mean, is David Ramirez Christian?
I like to believe so.
Like there are Christian people who write songs about faith that I really love.
But they're not necessarily like a CCM,
No.
Christian radio artist, right?
No.
They're because I think you're talking, and we've talked about David Ramirez on the show before. The song "Forgiven."
Yeah, and just like I want music that talks about real things.
And so, like, have you ever come across a Christian artist that is on Christian radio that you feel like is being authentic and talking about real things?
There is one band I have only heard like 2 songs that they sing. So keep in mind that I have no idea as a whole.
10th Avenue North?
Yes. 10th Avenue North. It's a good thing we're married or I would be terrible.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to tie my shoes.
What? Yeah, I think that like they have this song called "The Struggle" that they talk about, like the struggle of being a Christian and how we're free to do that.
Yeah, the lyric that I love from that song is, it's "Hallelujah, we are free to struggle. We're not struggling to be free."
Yeah.
And to me, that does communicate a really important message in a creative way. And but guess what? That band isn't doing well anymore.
Yeah.
They're not popular anymore.
What's the other one they sing?
Torn.
Yeah, and that's just like that song was like telling God, like,
I think Worn. Maybe it's Worn.
Worn.
Yeah, Torn or Worn.
Torn is a 90s song.
Yeah, I think it's Worn. Because they don't sing, "I'm torn."
Yeah, it's Worn.
Worn.
And it's just talking to God about how you...
Our son is asleep and we're listening. Is he awake? Is he awake? Also, our cats hate each other right now.
One's right there. It's just talking about how the guy, he's tired of... It seems like it's hard to believe, basically.
So me, I listen to worship music a lot, mainly because worship ministry is a big part of my life, and
all the time.
I studied it in college, and I feel like that's where God has kind of led me into that world.
I don't think I would even know worship songs if they weren't for you.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to worship music for fun, like because I like it. And it's funny, I was having a talk with our worship leader, and she even said that I listen to worship music more than she does.
Yeah.
But why do you think, other than, that I just like it, why do you think some people are drawn to worship music like me and people like you are not?
I can think of like maybe 2 ways, maybe 3 reasons why that might be. One, you grew up with Christian music. Like listening to worship Christian music.
Well, and just being in the church a lot.
Yeah, I didn't. So it's foreign to me still. Like,
yeah.
I don't say... I feel like I can go to church and worship, or I'm in the car and I'm listening to certain music and I can worship. Secondly, I think people worship in different ways. You worship their music a lot.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of where God has given me passion. When I'm playing music, even when I'm listening to music, I feel connected to God more than in other areas.
And I think I do too sometimes. But I don't even there are some days where I'm like excited to go to church and worship, but I don't like planned worship things.
Yeah, it seems like even just the regular kind of stereotypical worship settings tend to rub you the wrong way almost instantly.
I rarely ever worship at church. I just don't like scheduled, like, okay, now is the time to worship God. Like, usually when I end up worshiping to music, it's totally random.
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's like a spirit-led thing where it's a moment where you just feel God's presence, or do you...
Yeah, probably.
What would you say to people who are also in your position, like who struggle to worship at church? Because I mean, here's the thing: is worshiping at church is important. I mean, you're with your community. Worshiping as a community in your church is important and is good and positive. And I would argue that it's something you should do. But what would you say to people who are kind of in your position but still find themselves in those public places? Like, how do you go about feeling God's presence and worshiping when it's really not your comfort zone?
So, like, what would I say to people who go to church?
Who are like you, like they struggle to worship at church.
Don't feel like you have to.
Expand. Give me more.
I think that, like, if you're just raising your hands or not really worshiping but doing it because everybody else is doing it, I don't think that's a good thing at all. And I think, you know, I don't think you're disrespecting God if you're just not feeling the posture of worship. That doesn't mean you can't worship other times.
So you're saying don't fake it until you make it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because, I mean, what's the point? I mean, you know, a lot of people, and I mean, what I love about this is that kind of flies on the face of a lot of church leadership things. Like they're saying, you know, a lot of people say, you know, you just need to give your all, even if you're not feeling it, and then God will honor that.
Yeah,
which I think is true in some sense, in some situations.
Maybe like
in other
serving,
other things. But I think you're right in you shouldn't be closing your eyes and raising your hands if you do not feel it at all.
No, I think.
Or like, you know, if you're angry with someone else in the church and you haven't like worked that out with them and trying to worship in that. Have you ever been in that situation?
All the time.
And I mean, in the scriptures it says like, don't come worship God when you haven't worked something out with your brother or sister. You know, you go to them and then come back and worship.
That's scripture.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, do you think that we bring baggage or bring things to worship and worship anyway when really our heart is not in the right place?
All the time. But I think that you can worship God when you're maybe not in the right place sometimes.
It's really kind of a catch-22.
Yeah,
because you don't want to fake it, but you also don't want to phone it in either. You don't want to like build a barrier like, well, I don't feel right today, so I'm not going to worship.
Yeah, I think that being in churches where you can tell people are just doing it just to do it, and I don't know, I'm a terrible at this.
No. I think, so here's a good question. Mainly it's a good question because it's my question. What would be your ideal setting and circumstances to worship at your full capacity?
By myself. I'm sorry, I keep yawning.
It's only strike two, don't worry.
It's not that I want my obviously I don't want my relationship with God to be completely private, but I think I've been in so many situations where, I mean, I don't know if we should talk about this, but like at our previous church, like if we were to be having doubts, if we were to be having to come off badly, which I did all the time, we would be in disciplinary circumstances. And so because of that, like, I don't know where I'm going with this, like, and because in, like, whenever I first became a Christian, like, I would be one of those people who would go and just raise their hands when they weren't feeling it and didn't understand it or whatever. Like, I would do that, and I just, at this point in my life, I feel closest to God, and I feel like I am authentically worshiping Him when I am in private, and it's not a show.
And so you all may be wondering, like, what does this have to do with Christian art? But it actually does. It has a lot to do with, and here's how. What you're talking about is you don't like the expectations of worshipers within a church setting. It's the same thing that I've talked about to almost every guest here, is Christian artists don't like the expectations and or boundaries that the church places on art, on creating Christian art. And it's why, to me, some of the best Christian artists are not considered Christian artists. They're just artists, and they talk about God in an honest way, in a true way. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so it's like, if, it's called worship arts, or a worship arts director, or, so if worship is truly an art, then not even the people leading the worship or playing the music, but the worshipers, the people who have no instruments in their hands, may not have the greatest voice, but just the average person in the congregation, what they're doing is an art. Worshiping God is an expression of beauty and an expression of yourself. You're creating praise to God. And when the church says, well, if your hands are raised, you're doing it right. If your eyes are closed, you're really feeling the Spirit. Then what that's going to do is that's filtering true worship and true art. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, you are. It also, I can, like, swing it, I don't even know if this is swinging it another way, but to another point, like, I think that in contemporary churches, like, we're really against, like, doing everything in a traditional way. And I used to be that way too. Like, we can't do hymns anymore, like, or if we do, they have to be, like, different than they used to be.
To a different beat.
Like, and I used to think hymns were, like, old and blah, and, like, I used to want, like, in our old church, I used to want to, like, phase out the hymns and just have contemporary music, until I saw, like, an older gentleman holding the hymnal book, and, like, he was, like, weeping because of the hymn we were singing. And I think that we just have, like, these expectations of what worship should look like in church, like, all around. I think we just have expectations, and I don't think we should have boundaries on what worship needs to look like, or when you need to worship, or whatever. If you aren't at that time when you're supposed to be, like.
Do you think that stigma that you're talking about right there, do you think that is a reason why artists don't feel welcome in the church?
Yeah. I think that's why every song sounds the same on Christian radio. Because
it has to fit a certain mold.
Yeah. And I think that you will find artists who are Christian become not Christian because they felt like they should be in a box.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're awesome. And I know you're tired, and so I appreciate you talking about it. It's seriously awesome. And your perspective is super, super good. And I think what I love about your perspective is, would you consider yourself an artist?
No.
No, and that's what I think is so beautiful about your perspective, is I've interviewed artists, and I wanted to interview somebody who knows art and creates things but wouldn't consider themselves an artist. And that's why your perspective is really unique and really special. So thank you for joining us this week.
You're welcome. One more point to like that whole like fitting in a box. Christian movies, like we hate them, right? Like we don't watch them. But they're like praised in the Christian church. Like, go see God's Not Dead. Like, you will be so blessed. And then like
then you get a text like 3 hours later. God's not dead. Okay. Thank you.
Now a Christian, what I would consider a Christian movie came out that I thought was beautiful, The Shack. Mm-hmm. And it's getting so much backlash.
You did not just bring that up on this show.
It's art. And it's getting so much backlash because of the story does not fit in the boundaries of what we consider to be Christian art.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it really, like, we saw it on a date night. And we both kind of went into it. You were a little more open-minded than I was. Yeah. I'm like, here we go, another Christian movie about blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But I was pleasantly surprised.
But people hate it.
People still hate it, yeah. Yeah, people still hate it.
And a lot of Christians hate it.
Yeah. But it might be the most well-done Christian movie I've ever seen. Mm-hmm.
But that's just talking about the boundaries.
We should talk about that again. About the Christian movies. Because we both have a lot to talk about on that, too. Well, that's it for this episode. Kasha, thank you. This has been a delight.
Hope you guys didn't die of boredom listening to me.
No, that would be last week when it was just me.
Or you could trick along with my thoughts. Yeah. It's not easy.
No, it is not. But, no, truly, it was really good. Really good stuff. Tune in next time. There you go.